Hi, and what I'm going to do here is to go through some comments from the past week on my videos. I get so many comments these days, it's not easy to get a chance to read them all, although I do try and keep up when it's slower times, like at the moment. That's a bit easier. I don't get time to respond to them. Sometimes responses are a bit more difficult as well. But every now and then you do get some comments you sort of think, well, there's a bit more of a response required from it than you can easily just type in there. So I'm going to pick out some of the comments or questions from the past week, and I may well do this every week. So, put comments below if this is the sort of thing you want me to do as well. So, first one. Can you make a video on angry assignments where you discuss pros and cons, how to set it up best, and how to convince my guild that it can be a helpful thing rather than an annoyance and distracting? Yes, I can. That's certainly easy to do. It's a very important add-on. I have actually, I think, done an add-on video for it, but I could certainly do one in terms of explaining the importance of it for people who just see it as a hindrance. It absolutely isn't. It's really important. And the other thing as well, just the reason I put on this comment is, if people do have things that they want me to talk about, absolutely put comments on like that, because as long a list as I always get of videos that I would like to do, I never run out of ideas for them. Actual ideas from the viewers themselves in terms of what you want, well, that's always brilliant as well. And sometimes I have had my big long list of things. Oh, I'll do videos on this weekend or this week, and someone suggested something else, and I've actually put it higher priority because I think it's actually a better idea. Next one, is there going to be an upload to YouTube? So this was in reference to the streaming. I've started doing a proper streaming schedule now. I have on and off tried to stream a little bit. There's always been little barriers to this. One of the major barriers has been that when I try and stream gameplay, especially if I'm raiding, something like that, I can't talk to people. If it's like a casual one and I'm able to see the chat and respond to it, you won't be able to hear what I'm saying a lot of the time because people will be talking shit in Discord. Whereas another problem has arisen if I need to be talking about something confidentially, say an officer or something like that. Again, I don't just mean the text chat, I mean on Discord. Then again, I can't obviously have that going out on stream as well. But I've now got the virtual audio cable and voice meter banana, which people have recommended. It's working as well. I tested it last night. It all works. So I'm going to now be streaming regularly 3 times a week, barring unfortunate events, but they're not going to be very often. So Tuesday nights are still going to be the live discussions. They've already been going on for about a month now. Wednesday nights, I will now be able to stream our raids on a Wednesday. The reason I've chosen Wednesday is because for most weeks, that will be farm stuff. So it'll be farm stuff next week and the next few weeks. Sure, we'll be doing technically a little bit of progress as soon as Tomb of Sargeras comes out on a Wednesday, but it quickly settled that back down to farm and stuff like that. There are pros and cons even then, because of course I don't need every boss and I'm willing to sit out for people who do need bosses. So there may be times when I end up being sat out, but I'll just do my best to do some chat at that point, I suppose, as well. I don't want to feel that I will be putting myself in the raid just for the sake of streaming it. But I will be streaming the Wednesday raids. And then for the last couple of weeks, I've been streaming on Saturday afternoons, but a different game, Elder Scrolls Online at the moment. And this was in response to that. Is there going to be an upload to YouTube for that? There isn't. I'm not going to upload gameplay. The reason is that gameplay, I'm not talking all the time on gameplay because people are not talking to me. I did actually notice, when I looked back at the video, that was possibly partly my fault as well, because I had the chat visible to me, but not people watching the stream. So I know they're watching the stream. They can see the chat down there. It would be probably a bit better, especially for people looking back, watching the video afterwards. I'm responding to questions that they can't see because the chat's not visible on the HUD. So I'm going to make that visible. But the bottom line is, I'm just playing. I'm streaming while I'm playing a game. If people say things on Twitch, I'm going to respond to it. If they say things in the chat, I will respond to it. But, if you get periods of time where people aren't saying anything, I'm not going to say something just for... Sometimes I'll just say things, every now and then. But I'm not going to try and keep up a patter. Which basically means if I was to put gameplay streaming up on YouTube, I'd have to edit it quite heavily. That would take a lot of time, and a lot more time than I've actually got. So the short answer to that is I'm not going to upload gameplay. But the videos are available to watch on my Twitch channel. If you go to twitch.tv/Thete Gaming and you just go to the video section, my past streams are up there. Next question. This was again to do with the Elder Scrolls Online thing. A lot of these areas bring back good memories from Morrowind, blah, blah, blah. I just recently quit WoW after raiding a top 150 world for the past 4 tiers and of 800 days played in total. How would you say PvE compares? Now, I'm not going to answer this here, but the reason I put this comment is I did have an inkling. And again, people put comments below if you want me to do this or not. I did have a little thought about doing a series of videos on comparing Elder Scrolls Online with World of Warcraft, as I'm playing both at the moment. Obviously, Elder Scrolls Online on a very casual basis, on certain aspects. So I was thinking of comparing, say, crafting in those 2 games, leveling content in those 2 games, managing out, things like that, like PvP in those 2 games. The stuff that I'm experiencing, obviously I can't do a lot of endgame compared with those 2 games because I don't do endgame in Elder Scrolls Online. But for a few, I mean, it wouldn't be a long series, but for a few videos, if that sounds like the sort of thing you'd like to watch, then put your comments below, and then maybe I will do that, because that sounds like it'd be quite fun. Next question. I have a question that's not related to this video. I'm using, I don't know which video it's from, I've just got the comments here. I'm using DBM, but want to switch to bigwigs because it's more customizable. How do you config bigwigs to show timers like the Seeker Swarm at blah, 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 blah? Is it a week or what? Timers, no, timers are from bigwigs. That's one of the main things you use something like bigwigs for, to give you those timers. There is some customization of them, but that's the answer to that one. If you see any timers there, it's almost, if it's timer bars, it's definitely bigwigs. Sometimes there are weak auras I have, which I don't produce myself, but there are weak auras for Nighthold, which you'll be able to find links to on forums and things. Sometimes they have a number countdown as well under the icon. So if you ever see an icon and a number underneath it, that's a weak aura. But if you see timer bars, that's bigwigs, if you ever look at any of my videos. Next question. I think it's terrible to implement something into the game that you can't reach. Extremely frustrating. I also can't see why people who put more work into the game shouldn't get better rewards. Examples given. You're doing AP stuff, well, too bad you're never going to cap. You're doing Mythic, 15, 16, 17, etc. Gear is capped at 10. You're raiding Mythic, too bad, chances you get the same or better gear in normal or heroic. Now, I disagree with this. A couple of things. I'll go through it bit by bit. Terrible to implement something to game you can't reach. No, it's essential for an MMO. This is where a lot of people treat MMOs as single-player games. Much as I am with Elder Scrolls Online. I'm not saying I disagree with that. But you have to bear in mind, it's not a single-player game. It's an MMO. And it's an MMO with a subscription model, which means they need you playing all the time. A single-player game, you play it for a few months and you've done it. If you really go at it, you've done it in a month. They can't have that with an MMO. It has to be never-ending. The never-ending story, it's got to be. It's the only way it works, otherwise they don't make money. And then say, also can't see why people who put more work into the game shouldn't get better rewards. A lot of this is not more work, it's just more time. You know, farming AP is not necessarily, I say not necessarily more work, depends on how you do it. A lot of it is just more time. Some people don't have the time to spend, because some people are able to spend all day. And I don't just mean the top-end Mythic Raiders. I mean just people who play the game casually. Casual's got nothing to do with how much you play the game. Some casual players play this game like 10 hours a day, which is not healthy, by the way. Don't do that. So that's not putting more work in. That's just putting more time in. And then on to the specific thing. So you're doing AP stuff. Well, too bad you're never going to cap. I would have liked there to have been a weekly cap, but Blizzard didn't want one, and for various reasons. Now the next one, you're doing Mythic 15, 16, 17, etc., but the gear is capped at 10. The gear needs to be capped at a certain point, because what would happen if it were not, if it were unlimited, a lot of people would be excluded from that content. Because what would you do? If you could get better gear just by going higher and higher and higher, inevitably what you will do is you will start to form perfect groups. A perfect group of players. So you will introduce cliques within your guild of people. They're not going to let you in because you're not one of those perfect players, unless you are, in which case you're being a bit hypocritical. The next, so certain classes will be excluded, even if those players are very, very good, just because you need to push as high as possible. So yeah, you would start to see dedicated Mythic Plus groups. Obviously, some of those already exist for people who want to push for other reasons, but they're not as common as they would be if actual gear was on the line. And then the next one, you're raiding Mythic. Too bad, chances you get the same or better gear, normal or heroic. Absolutely not. No, you don't. I do heroic every week. I am not wearing any heroic gear. All my gear is from Mythic or Mythic Plus Dungeons. I'm not wearing any heroic Nighthold gear anymore. So it's possible to get better gear from lower levels, but it's not likely. You're suggesting here that the chances you get the same or better, as if normal or heroic is an equal or better chance than Mythic. No, it's not. Absolute nonsense. The chance of something Titan Forging or War Forging in all of those modes is equally the same, but there's 15 item levels difference between, say, heroic and Mythic. So, no, absolutely, the chances are you get better. If you're raiding Mythic, the gear you're wearing is predominantly from Mythic raiding, especially if you've finished it or got close to finishing it. So no, that's just factually incorrect. Sorry. And then it says, "Wow, felt never." I think you mean never felt less rewarding to me. It's fine. That's a perception. There are obviously Legion was a big change, and a lot of the things in it. I mean, there's some things that I don't like. So that's a better statement, saying it's never felt less rewarding for you, so you don't feel it's rewarding for you, this expansion. Totally understand that, but I do disagree with the earlier points that led up to it. Next one, on a similar theme, but not exactly the same sort of thing. If you have a problematic system that people get burned on and has clearly caused insane rifts in the raiding community, and AP has done that, I'm not going to disagree with that, do you keep it and discourage people to try and farm it, or get rid of it and return to a proper reward system? I see you defending Blizz for this failure that has nearly cost me my guild. Well, it's nearly cost me my guild as well. It's nearly cost a lot of people's guilds, and it has cost a lot of people their guilds. The reason I defend it is a couple of reasons. One, just because a system doesn't work doesn't make the system bad. It means it needs refining. It means that, you don't give up on the first attempt at something, otherwise you never achieve anything. Inventing the first aeroplane, the first attempts at that were disastrous. Same with rockets, same with cars, same with any technology. The first attempts at any technological device that we now take for granted were unmitigated failures. But you don't abandon the whole project, you refine it, you learn from your mistakes, and you get better. Now, there are issues with... I could level at criticism at Blizzard that sometimes they have not listened to people who know. There was a lot of criticism of certain elements of the game in alpha and beta that the community essentially as one voice leveled at Blizzard and said, if you do this, this will be the consequence. And Blizzard ignored it. And all those things have come to pass. And all the things that people suggested Blizzard did at the testing stage, Blizzard, a lot of that stuff has done now. They just didn't then for whatever reason. But at the same time, the AP type system, although it won't be exactly the same in the next expansion because artifacts are going, they will have something similar because they need it. The problem with Warlords of Draenor, people kept saying there's no content. And why was there no content? Well, ultimately it was because there were no rewards for doing that content. Imagine Mythic Plus now. If there was no such thing as artifact power, what reward would you give for pushing Mythic Plus? Gear up to a certain level, and then what? Nothing. And people would say, well, that'd be great. I would agree. I would love that. I would love that about the game, because I had no real issue with Warlords of Draenor. I understood from other people's point of view, but I played this game for raiding. The raiding was great in Warlords of Draenor. Absolutely fantastic. Apart from the year-long drought at the end of it, or more than a year, really. But, well, no, about a year. But ultimately, there was no content that rewarded you for anything, that encouraged you to do it. But an MMO has to have repeatable content. Now, people don't complain that Mythic Plus isn't a good system. But if you took the rewards away for it, and then, as I say, so what rewards do you put in place? You can't just, for reasons I said in the previous question, just let the gear stack up and up and up, because you will exclude vast numbers of people from that content that might want to do it. So that's why I defend it. It's not that... Sometimes a system is fundamentally flawed, and there's no way to fix it. And then, yes, you should say this should be abandoned. But I don't see any logic that suggests that this is a fundamentally flawed system. It's just not been well implemented. But it has improved. Blizzard have improved the system. In fact, the way it is now with Artifact Power, if they'd have done Mythic Plus and all the rest of it, if they'd have done, and there's going to be more changes in 7.2.5, which are really encouraging. If they'd have done that from the start, I don't think we'd have had half the problems we have now. Next one. Completely different one now. Gateways. I was talking about the fact that, we hadn't had a Warlock for so long. For most of this tier, we hadn't had a Warlock. And now we have again. We've got 2 all of a sudden. So now we've got gateways. I was quite delighted. But I mentioned their use on a couple of fights because they're not needed on most fights. And then someone's responded they use them pretty much all of them. But it just screamed danger to me. It says gateways for each fight I use them on. Anomaly to get to Adge, yep. Trilliacs get across the centre of the room for cakes. Oh my god, no. Disaster. Do you really do that? I can see all sorts of problems with that. People gating into like shitty areas, or because you always have to consider if you're putting gateways around where people naturally are, some bozo is going to accidentally click it at some point. God, no, I can't even know. And also, there's no necessity because you should have people at strategic locations around the room anyway. Getting cake should not be an issue. You certainly don't need a gateway for it. Spellblade get melee out of Arcane and Fire phase. What? Huh? What? I don't understand how that works even. Like in the Arcane phase, you all want to group up, but you group up like it's a couple of steps back. And the Fire phase, if you have a gateway to do that, then they're all going to go to the same place. Do you want them all dropping fire in the same place? That's a disaster. I'd love to see a video of one of your things where you're using this, because that sounds like a disaster to me waiting to happen. Botanists get away from lashes. Well, lashes spawn from all over the place. How do you know where you need to put... They spawn in different locations every time they spawn. Tichondrius to get to the side of the room for plague. You could, or you could just strafe. But okay, Croesus get away from the orb, yeah, definitely. And Gul'dan get away from the storm, potentially. Yeah. Of course, you could only use it on one go, but yeah, fine. But some of these things just scream danger to me. The Allurial one in particular, I'm just thinking, I'm just trying to think, how is that working? So get back to me on that one. Show me a video, because I'm really curious about that. 2 things. I think Sargeras has to be the end boss. And I think it will be a fight similar to Deathwing, where we're fighting on him or inside of him or something, blah, blah, blah. No. There's several reasons why. The thing is, here's the thing. I know when it comes to Argus, there doesn't want to be a letdown of a boss. The problem is that we're killing a major lore. The only reason people even talk about Sargeras Argus is because we're killing a major lore character in Kill Jaden in the next tier, and we don't know anything about Argus. So obviously, within that vacuum of not knowing anything about Argus, other than there's a raid, people are going to speculate. But a couple of things. One, Sargeras isn't on Argus. Unless someone's going to... Well, he can't be on Argus anyway because he's planet-sized himself. But I don't think he's even in the vicinity. The second thing... But someone could correct me on that one. But the second thing is Sargeras is the main antagonist in World of Warcraft. He's in everything. He is the main antagonist. If you defeat Sargeras, if you ultimately defeat Sargeras, as in kill him, World of Warcraft has nowhere to go. Yes, we can talk about the Void Lords. I mean, I've talked about them as being a potential antagonist in a World of Warcraft 2. The problem is, if you were to do that now, there's been no build-up for it. Void Lords have very little lore involvement in investment in World of Warcraft. You read about them in the book side of things. There's not much. There's not very much in the game itself. So you can't suddenly switch from the Legion being the main antagonist, which they are and always have been, to the Void Lords, the Void Gods, because we're not really involved in them at all. We don't know a great deal about them in terms of the game. So there'd be a good... So you end Sargeras and you end in World of Warcraft, which of course is not happening. The best you could potentially do, the absolute best, is you, just like with Kil'jaeden in Sunwell Plateau, you disrupt a summoning of Sargeras. Maybe he's found out a way to get to... Because obviously it doesn't make any sense to disrupt a summon into Argus even, sorry, because that planet's already knackered. But maybe you go to Argus to disrupt a summoning where Argus is a key part of it, where Sargeras has now found a way to get himself to Azeroth, which would be Curtains. So maybe you disrupt it from Argus. That is the best I can think of. But a direct fight against Sargeras coming up, don't see it. Next one. I don't get what it burns out people now with AK. I'm casual and just clear normal and heroic Nighthold. I do AP world quests and that is it. Haven't done single Mythic Plus for at least 7 weeks. Naughty. What's the point in farming AP if you're not even going to farm gear? My Ashbringer Truth Guard are at 52, and it's just like 1 hour of week every day and 2 nights of quick raid clears. If you want to have blah blah blah, yeah. But the thing is, there's a world of difference between having 52 at this point and having 56. The people on 56 have farmed a hell of a lot. 52, not, and this is why, I mean, I've had several people commenting on how easy it is. Like, oh, I've caught up. I only started playing this character a few weeks ago, and I've caught up. And they're saying they've got like artifact power 45 on the weapon or something. It's like 45's not caught up. 52 is decent. 52 is what you want for Tomb of Sargeras, so that's fine. But even that, there's a world of difference between, at this point, at the time I'm talking now, having 52 traits, which doesn't require a lot of effort. I've got that, and I haven't done much more than you're describing there. In fact, I haven't done any more than you're describing there. Except I've changed some of the content. I have done a few Mythic Pluses. I only do a few each week. I don't do loads because I don't want to get myself burned out. But there's a world of difference between that and the people in my guild who are on 56. They have been spamming Mythic Plus dungeons. And it's easy to see how someone doing that can get burned out. Next one. So, I started your videos after I stumbled over your types of raiding guilds in WoW. Did I do that? I don't remember doing that. And I've especially enjoyed the recruitment series as I'm in a kind of similar situation. They're not as blah, blah, blah. Just found out it's now possible to filter by LFG on WoW Progress on your Realms list of characters. Not sure when they changed it, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so there's no point in filtering by realm, as I see it. There are a lot of filters I would like to see. Filter by realm isn't a useful one. Because the thing is, like, if you filtered already by language and people looking for a guild and then class, you're only going to be scanning through a few pages anyway. But for a mythic guild anyway, there's only the first few pages are going to have anyone that's up to that level of gear and advancement. Even most of the people like with high item level, usually it's quite common to see them with very poor artifact weapons, like way behind. So if you're only going to look at a few pages, it's really quick and easy to visually see someone from the same realm. So, but there are a lot of filters that I would like to see WoW Progress do, because it's really annoying when you're going, and for options for people when they're flagging themselves as well, because you're looking through WoW Progress and there's people who say they're not wanting to transfer. Well, I want to cut those out immediately unless they're from my realm. No option to do that. There's people who are actually really just looking for a Mythic Plus group. They don't want to find a new raid guild. Well, can we not have something to filter those out? You know, there's some, you know, having options to be able to filter not just by item level, but also to, you know, what are your minimum requirements of, say, artifact power level, things like that. Should be all sorts of things like that, but those filters just don't exist. Let's have a look. Next one. Oh yeah, this was a weird one. It says, you would be like the professional HR guy with a long gold tie. Yes, sir. Blah, blah, blah. No, I don't have a gold tie. I will show you what I do have for work. So, perhaps unsurprisingly, I have a maths tie. I have a Snoopy tie, which actually, I don't wear this very often. I wore this week, and everyone kept thinking it was a Christmas tie for some reason. I don't know why. They just said because it's red. It's like, I don't know what red's got to do with Christmas. And I also have an astronomy tie as well. Those are my three main ones. I have some others as well. I actually have some Christmas ties. I also have my university tie and a couple of others as well, but those are my 3 favourites. So those are the actual ties I would wear. I certainly wouldn't wear a boring gold one. And I think that's it for the interesting questions. There were a couple of really interesting questions or statements that I actually want to do individual videos on because it'll take some time. I don't want this to be too long. So again, put in the comments below if you want me to do this sort of thing each week, if it sounds interesting to you, the sort of thing you like to have in the background while you're doing your world quest. That's what, some of these size vlogs can be useful for. But thanks for listening and I hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, I'll see you later.